one person was injured when a storm blew off the roof of a matric exam marking centre in Thaba Nchu in the Free State. Parts of the province were hit by heavy storms and hail. The Department of Basic Education says some matric exam scripts may have been damaged in the incident. Accounting paper 2 and business paper 2 were being marked. The department plans to relocate the marking centre as soon as possible. But for the latest, I am joined now by the Department of Education, Basic Education spokesperson Mhlanga. Mr. Mhlanga, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. You say that you've been assessing the extent of the damage to the exam papers. What are some of the findings showing so far?
Well, good morning, Paul. Yes, we are in the Free State to do exactly that. At the moment, we are in the Education Department offices where we are in a meeting getting a report from officials who were on the scene. From here, we'll be going to Thaba Nchu to get more information from there. But the center itself, which had initially been located in Thaba Nchu, has now been moved. It's now here in Bloemfontein in the city.
What will happen in an instance where you find that there has been severe damage to those papers? Will pupils be disadvantaged in any way?
We don't believe that the candidates should be disadvantaged because it was no fault of their own, nor was it the fault of the department. So it's a natural phenomenon which has really created this crisis. But we believe that the provisions in the administration of the examinations are sufficient to provide for a relief in a situation like this one. But that's a worst case scenario. At the moment, we are getting a report and it doesn't look as bad as it looked in the pictures that we saw and the videos that were circulating. It seems the officials worked very hard to try and recover as much of what was there as possible. But of course, we are still in that meeting now, receiving a report. We'll be able to update later on in the afternoon.
And what do we know about the matric exam marker that was injured?
Well, that person has recovered. It was a minor injury, and all of them, the markers who were involved in the marking in the Thaba Nchu center, which was damaged, are now continuing to mark here in Bloemfontein. So there was no serious injury. It's just damage to cars, as you might have seen that some cars were seriously damaged with windows broken and other damage to just the property in that area, in that community, in fact, in general. So that's what is being assessed at the moment. But in terms of lives, we are very grateful that there was no life lost and that there were no serious injuries.
Is there a reason for some concern, Mr. Mhlanga, especially as we look at some of the challenges that have come about in the finalization of these results? We also know that 23 matric exam markers tested positive for COVID-19 in Limpopo. Could these delays, as well as what's happening there in Thaba Nchu, see perhaps an extension or delays when it comes to the outcome of the final matric exams?
Well, we are not going to experience any delays. We always had reserve markers because we have experience of 2020 when lots of our markers tested positive and we were able to replace them using reserve markers. Even in this situation, we made a provision for that. So in a situation like Limpopo where some markers tested positive, other markers were called upon to replace those so that marking is not disrupted or delayed. In the case of Free State here, all of the markers are marking. And it was just a delay of a day when they were relocated here, but they remain on schedule to finish. We believe that the process will be concluded as scheduled on the 22nd of December.
You say that marking is not disrupted, and we've also learned of some of the markers in Limpopo saying that they've had to wait for hours on end to get the scripts delivered so that marking can resume. What happened there?
Yeah, in the planning, we always make available some days which should be used for recovery in case there's a delay. That's why we say everyone should have finished by the 22nd of December. But of course, we know that others finish earlier because the subjects are not the same. Some are smaller and some are bigger. So those that have fewer candidates, the marking can be concluded much earlier and the markers can leave. So it's not every center that is affected in the same way. So even where there are challenges, they are not applicable across the board, but it's just those few centers which host a large number of markers with a large number of scripts. But in the majority of the centers where it is caused one more day of delay, as per the management plan. We need to finish as scheduled so that we're able to move to the next phase in the process.
There's also been reports on the safety and hygiene practices under question when it comes to some markers complaining that there's no social distancing, especially when they have to queue for food, and that hygiene practices are also under the spotlight. Some have said that they found that there was mold in their accommodation, in the bathrooms. I mean, what does that speak to when it comes to the criteria that have been put in place for the allocation of accommodation for the markers?
Well, we do our best to accommodate them in suitable places. And, it's very difficult to provide a perfect environment for people. There's always something to complain about. But we believe that we've done our best to provide suitable and appropriate accommodation for all of them, and that the catering that is given to them is of good quality. We know that these are teachers, people who are working. They deserve a good quality service because they are doing a very good job as well of marking. We need to provide absolute comfort when it comes to taking care of them for the duration of marking. So in those situations, we monitor. As I'm speaking to you now, the Director General is in KZN. He will be in the Eastern Cape tomorrow and Western Cape. We are monitoring every marking center to make sure that there's full compliance with COVID protocols. You go there, you remind teachers, please make sure that you comply. You have to remind them. Sometimes they forget, sometimes they relax, but there are compliance officers who make sure that they remind them that they need to respect the COVID protocol. So we do our best, but it's also up to them to make sure that they comply.
Very well. Let's leave it there for now. Basic Education Department spokesperson Mhlanga giving us an update on that matric exam center that was damaged, and of course saying that there will be no delays when it comes to the finalization and release of the matric 2021 results.